Peace, peace, peace. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody feeling? How's everybody feeling?
Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. I'm a little tired today. There's a lot going on, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking time to speak to me. So it's 12 o'clock out there right now, right?
It's midday. The sun is shining. We're in winter, but I'm looking out at palm trees. It's cool, but it's the
Uh,
middle of the day. Yeah.
nice, nice, nice. Well, once again, thank you. So today is June 15th, and we're almost five years to the release of Be Here Now. It came out the release was June 13th, 2015.
That's right. That's right. It was a long way in the making, but when it came out, and it's still well, it's about to do a second kind of launch in the next couple of months as well.
Oh, nice, nice. I actually went to New York when it premiered in New York. I went to go see it in New York. And did you ever hear of Spartacon?
I have heard of it many times. Yes, I've been kind of pitched a number of times to go and have, be a part of that, but it just hasn't worked out properly.
I actually the second Spartacon, I actually got this. I made this shirt, and this side is of Andy jumping up from the last episode, and this was from Liam from the last episode, doing like both of them, kind of like Air Spartacus. Both of them kind of mirrored each other.
Well, like you're a super fan.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember seeing the previews for Spartacus, and I remember I was about to go to college, and I remember saying, if I don't start watching the show now, I'm not going to start watching it. Lo and behold, I graduate from college. I'm at home, and I think it was in the middle of Blood and Sands. I start watching, and I'm like, oh, it's that show Spartacus. So I didn't even finish half the episode, and I went all the way back to the beginning to start watching it. And I went back to Gods of the Arena. So I watch it, and then I get into Blood and Sand, and I see Andy, and I didn't find out what happened until I start watching the third season, and I'm just like, that Spartacus looks a little different. And then I hop on the computer and I start doing my research, and I'm just like, oh, like everything just hits me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like. And then from there, I just became an even bigger fan because that story of the story of Spartacus inspired me, and then finding out Andy's personal story that inspired me even more.
Mm. Well, I think it's interesting. First of all, it's lovely to meet you because I want to just acknowledge for those listening that you have been around forever. Your gorgeous little comments, and one of the reasons I agreed to show up here today and be with
Thank
you was
you.
just to acknowledge, just the sheer energy of so many of the, not only the Spartacus fans but the Andy fans who have been so not only diligent in your, your commitment to kind of honoring the Be Here Now philosophy, but just in terms of your support of me and my Cubs and the love you give. So, but going back to your point, Richie, I think it's really interesting how we are moved by people and things. And it's
Hmm.
fascinating that so many people fell in love with this character that was Spartacus, but they
Yeah,
also fell in love with the actor behind that. And
yeah.
I think, and what's so important is the way people felt about this character, you know, like you said, it moved people to want to know where he disappeared to, why he disappeared, but
Yes.
also to kind of be inspired by his actions, his courage and bravery, and you know, it makes you want to be more in your own life. And I love the fact that to this day still you're inspired by not only the film, but you're inspired by the character of Spartacus to kind of be the man you want to be in the world. And that's what's so kind of remarkable about the whole experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, one of the quotes that he said in there was, you know, don't fear what you don't know. And I remember watching the show, and you know, I just graduated from performing arts school, and I was a bit of a slump. You know, I had to move back home. I'm seeing all my friends, they're doing TV shows, they're doing commercials, they're on Broadway, and I'm just like, you know, I graduated with those people. And I started watching Spartacus, and I love the physicality of it, and especially like specifically his performance, not taking anything away from the other actors, but his performance was just so inspiring, and it just made me remember, like, wait, I went to school for this training. I went to school for this. I can go and act. And I remember one of my first auditions was actually using a monologue from Spartacus, and that actually led to me getting a modeling contract.
Mate, great. Well, you know, you channel what and who inspires you, and that always helps us to show up as the person we can be rather than the person we're afraid of not being or our more insecure self. So it's great that you're using things that anchor you in being, you know, your authentic, talented self. There was something you said there that I thought was really important to just bring up, which was, you know, sometimes as an actor, not myself, but working with a lot of different actors. As an actor, what happens is we can have different reasons for wanting to be an actor. We can have it because we want people to, you know, acknowledge us. We want to be successful. We need to earn a living. We want to be recognized as great at what we do. There's so many different reasons. We want to be famous. We don't really want to act. We just want acknowledgement. And I think when you talked about, you know, like not getting auditions and going for things and feeling, you know, there's a sense for so many actors and people, doesn't matter whether you're an actor or not, when you go for something and you don't get it, there are some people who are flawed by it and kind of give up. There are some people that build up a whole story as to why they're not getting it. But what I want to say for you and your audience is to remember that everything happens in one way or another for a reason, even if you have to reflect on that. And that is about sometimes you're not supposed to get it. You know, like sometimes the door is supposed to close because you aren't ready. You know, like I've nearly moved to America 3 times, right? The first time my little sister got sick, so I needed to go home and had to leave San Francisco. The second time my husband got sick, and so we went away from LA, and you know, and so and another thing happened. So it's that thing of going, oh my God, not my plans and my dreams have failed. But what is it that I'm being pointed towards? What is it I need to go away and learn? What is it I need to do? So I think also as an actor and a creative for you and for so many people, be aware of when a door closes or an opportunity doesn't come back. And this happened for Andy so many times. He got down to the last guy. He's like, there's something else I'm supposed to get. What is it? So invite the lesson as opposed to feeling dejected and rejected, and explore what it is rather than making a story up about yourself that actually shifts away or ignores what the actual gift is.
Nice. Thank you for that. I have a question. Did Liam and Andy ever meet?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What was? Did he ever tell you what his favorite episode of Spartacus was, and what was your favorite episode?
You know, something I should talk to you about is because I was in the back of, when I say in the back, you know, I was doing Mummy with 2 very small people when we were filming Spartacus.
And so big now.
Well, they are big, but they're not that big, you know, like to watch Spartacus, my son is only just allowed to start watching that kind of stuff, you know, because when they were little, there was either a wild sex scene or somebody being slaughtered on set. So we
Yeah.
didn't get to go on a lot. So to be honest with you, my experience of Spartacus, rather than watching it, is being behind the scenes. So
Mm,
I can't give you a favorite episode because
gotcha.
I haven't got richly involved with Spartacus,
Okay.
because that was Andy's thing, and mine is about doing the work behind the scenes to help you have a really confident Spartacus.
Mm,
So, and also, there were many projects going on. You know, you're shooting a Spartacus, but there's little babies, there's kids going on, there's other projects going on. So
yeah.
in that time, you know, everybody's focusing on other things. They're not focusing on what their favorite episode it is, because it's only one project usually of many going on in life.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. That's not the response I expected, but I love it though. I love it. I always love when things kind of go left and I think they're gonna go right. Um,
Well, and also, you know, as I said, you know, I can talk to you about the documentary. I can talk to you about Andy
oh yeah,
and
let's definitely.
anything about those. But if you want to talk about Spartacus, I think there's millions of fans you should be asking, and not me.
Absolutely understandable. Going back to the documentary, first off, what was the moment that you decided? You know, I know he probably found out about his diagnosis. Was it in that when it was just like, you know what, this needs to be documentary. My story needs to be told.
No, it was a different context to that. It was never my story needs to be told. It was never about me. Like, when, if I say me, I mean Andy.
Yeah.
It was never about me. Andy didn't have, um, he was very much about purpose is driven by who we are for others. It
Mm.
was about, if
Okay.
I have the possibility of either dying or living, I
Mm-hmm.
want to go on this exploration of finding out how to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
And if I don't survive, I want to go on this exploration of what it means facing my own death. And so when we found out that his cancer had come back, or perhaps had not ever completely gone into remission,
Mm-hmm.
the conversation that he and I had, and that he very much felt, was this has come back for a reason, and I didn't get what I was supposed to understand before.
Yeah.
So I need to do something to give meaning to
Mm-hmm.
what I have to let go of. I have to let go of everything I've worked so hard for. I have to
Yeah.
let go of the possibility of maybe not growing old enough to see my children grow up. I have to let go of all these different things. So the specific line, you know, like if you want to quote, was, I have to do something to be of service. I have to do something with this that helps others going through the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to make a film. So I'm going to make a film. I want to make a film. And we called Sam Maydew, his manager, and who's one of the producer of the documentary. And
Mm-hmm.
Andy said, the conversation went like this: I want to make a documentary. And and Sam said, "Are you kidding me? You really want to do this? I think this is the worst idea. Do you really want to have cameras in your face when you're going to be so vulnerable and intimate?" And Andy was like, "No, but absolutely, because I can't go through this for nothing. It
Yeah.
has to be of something that is of service to others." And so that's where he said, "I want to make a documentary," and Be Here Now was born in a conversation with our brilliant, brilliant dear friend and the producer, Sam Maydew, who helped us then rally the director and then rally other people. And then wonderfully, the two producers of Spartacus Blood and Sand very kindly donated a number of a significant amount for the documentary to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you to them. You know, one thing, I was actually just watching this before we got on here, and you know, there was a point. He's sitting down, and I think the realization of his. I mean, he obviously he realizes, but he realizes he actually says it. You know, I'm facing my immortality. I never thought about the possibility of, well, what if I don't make it? And what you just to go back to what you just said, like you can, for me, like I just seen that transition, and I seen that bravery in him. It was just like, well, you know what, this is what I'm faced with. And I think he also seen the bigger picture, because you know, like I said, I thought that he went into it like, oh, you know, this is a documentary about my life, but hearing it from you, I feel like he very much seen the bigger picture and how this story can, as it's done its job, impact others.
Yes, but I think one thing you have to remember, and this is pertinent to everyone, living or dying, what's going on in the world right now, from whatever culture, gender, color you come from. You can think about the bigger picture, but all you ever have is now, in this moment. And you might be in isolation, you might be wherever you are, whatever you're doing. But when you're faced with your own mortality, you're not thinking, oh, in the future it will be this and this will. You're actually, you might have an intention around that, but so much is about what can I do in this moment? Like, what can I do with now? What can I do with today? Especially when your health is poor. So some days you might not be able to get out of bed because of your pain. You're not going, this documentary is going to make such a big impact. You're not even thinking about that. You're just thinking about, how am I going to get out of bed to record an interview? Because that's what we said we would do. How am I going to do that? So I think it's important, Richie, to remember that which is why it's be here now. And I've got, like, one of my many inks on my arm is not be here now, it's all we have is now. Because whatever and whoever you are in the moment is always a conscious choice around who you're showing up as. And what was so beautiful about Andy was that even in his deepest, darkest, most challenging, most pained moments, it was like, well, what can I give in this moment? And it was never like that big picture thing. It was just show up today and keep committing to being of service.
Yeah, you definitely got that sense from it. And, you know, watching it, you know, I know what's going to happen, but, you know, I get lost in the story, you know, neurocinematics. I just get lost in it. And I remember the part, you know, he's in remission, and then he's going to auditions, and he meets Jai at Fox Studios, and it's just, you know, I know ultimately what ends up happening, but, you know, you just get so caught in the moment. It's just like, oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Can you talk a little bit about your process of processing?
Yeah, let me just bear with me. I'm just getting, my arm is starting to shake, so I'm just going to get myself set up. Sorry, everybody, just moving you around. I'm just going to move that way. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say something, because you said something fantastic there around, you know, people will watch and rewatch the film. And before I go, please remind me that I just need to give people a little bit of an update around what's happening with the film and the website, because there's some big changes happening there. So, and sorry, can you remind me, what was the question? Oh yeah, so the two things I wanted to say is, one, it's really funny. So people keep watching the film and they're like, I show up and I just expect the ending to change, because I feel so positive. Even though I've seen this documentary 3 times, I find myself weeping, so sad, because this beautiful guy still dies. And every time I'm like, maybe, you know, like there's this hope that maybe it will change. And I think that's really beautiful. That's real testament to the director and how she made the movie. Absolutely. Now, remind me of your question. Sorry, you did ask a question and I got excited about sharing that.
No, it's all right. What is your process for processing?
Interesting. What's my process for processing? Well, I think it's a great question. You know that? Do you know the term, your state creates your story?
Yes.
So your emotional state, your physical state, your mental state creates your story, as in what you're telling yourself and how you're seeing your life, or you're seeing the world, or you're experiencing how someone's talking to you. And so the reason I reference that is one of the ways we process is about having enough self-awareness to be able to look at how we're feeling or observe what we're thinking, and to actually, instead of reacting to it, to actually be curious about it and question it. So my process for processing is always about asking myself, hang on, what is going on for me? You know, what's going on for me? Like, how am I feeling? And what are the thoughts? So if you almost separate those momentarily. So let's just take a thought. Like, what's the thought that I'm thinking? And is that triggered by how I'm feeling? Like if I had a late night and I was watching a kind of evocative or a dark or whatever moving TV series, or I'm reading a dark book, or I was working late, like did I go to bed exhausted and then I had a bad dream and then I went straight into my screens? Or like, how am I actually feeling? And is that cultivating my thinking? Right? Does that make sense? You know,
no, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a lot of people that are really anxious at the moment, and they're like, watching the news the whole time. They're
Yeah.
on screens. They're like drinking too much and doing too much. And then they're going, I don't know why I'm so stressed. So my process for processing is making sure, first of all,
Hmm.
is what's going on for me driven by what I've been doing and what I've been taking on and in around me? Or is there actually something going on for me? You know, I coach people all around the world all day, you know, every day of the week. And so I'm living all sorts of different people's lives through my work. Some going through some amazing, inspiring stuff, exciting, some going through some really tough, moving, hard stuff. So I'm taking all of that on. So the other thing I need to be mindful on, and I really everyone to hear this, is what's mine and what's somebody else's stuff that I'm taking on.
Mm,
Does that
mm,
make sense? So what's
yes.
mine and what's somebody else's, and why am I carrying theirs?
Yeah.
And why am I carrying their stuff? So if you're a nurturer and a carer, as I am, I like to rescue a little bit too much. We
Uh-oh.
can have a tendency to take the whole world on, you know, take the weight of the world, especially with what's going on right now. Like, you know, we
Absolutely.
can lie there lying awake going, I can't make a difference and all I want to do is help, you know, and that can again
Yes.
make us feel. So just the point there is be aware, is what I'm thinking and feeling in relationship to what's actually going on for me, what's mine, or am I taking on other people's stuff, and excuse me, do I need to do some clearing work around that? Now
Mm,
then the other part of how do I process and process
mhm.
is to understand, you know, like I know that saying, you know, education is power, but also education and knowledge is liberating and empowering.
Yeah.
So to know what is, let's say, for example, to know when we're grieving
Uh-huh.
and to know what grief is, or to know when we're frustrated because somebody's given us some harsh feedback and our ego is bruised a little, or to know that we're just feeling a bit vulnerable or we're feeling a bit frightened. You know, someone, you might receive like a $900 electricity bill and then a tax bill, and then you're freaking out and going, holy shit, how am I going to pay my, when we feel that anxiety and we start to
Mhm.
think those feelings and thoughts, they are almost like, you know, a spark to paraffin or to petrol. They ignite other thoughts of the
Yeah.
same. So again, it's that self-awareness of like, what is it I'm thinking? Am I thinking about grief? Am I feeling sad? Do I need to just let myself do that? Am I worried about money? What's going on for me? And
Mm,
how can I isolate that and give it the time it deserves in a kind of forward-thinking way? So when you asked about how I process,
mhm.
for example, I had a really strange dream
Mhm.
this last week, and it's driven by certain things, and it's a reoccurring dream. And I dream, wait for it, I dream that Andy is alive, and he tells me he's really nonchalant, like he just doesn't give a shit, right? He's really like, whatever. And he's a really loving guy in real life. And I say to him, is our marriage over? And he goes, I guess so. And my heart hurts for my children. And I say to him, but what about Jesse and Indy? And
Uh-huh.
he goes like this, they'll be fine. And my heart is broken because I can't believe that this man is just so vile and cruel and just doesn't care. And then I wake up and I realize it's not real.
Mhm.
And so now answering your question, Richie, how do you process something like that? Because it's not real,
Yeah.
but you're left, all the feelings in your body are so sad and so
Yeah.
painful. And then the worst thing is I wake up and realize he's not here anyway. So I
Right.
get a double whammy. So the
Yeah.
way that I process that is to recognize that I'm actually grieving, somewhere I'm grieving his loss. And I need to just be aware that I'm feeling vulnerable and I'm feeling sad. And that's just how I'm feeling. I don't build story into it. I don't make that mean anything. I just make sure that that day I'm just a bit gentle with myself. And when I'm working with clients or I'm with the Cubs or my friends, I say, you know, I had this really evocative dream and it's just brought up some grief. Today I'm missing my friend. I'm feeling a bit vulnerable without a partner to kind of protect me and hold me.
Yeah.
And and then the next day it's all gone, but I don't build a big story about it, right? I don't
Yeah.
then go, oh my god, I miss my husband on Twitter or whatever.
Uh,
It's about acknowledging it, processing it, and here's the big juicy part, and then letting it go.
letting it go. Yes. Let it as it comes, let it comes. When it goes, let it go.
Yeah, and if you can't let it go, do some investigation into what you're attached to, because when we're attached to something, we're holding on to something usually out of fear, not out of commitment. It's
Mm,
not like I want to do something with this. It's I'm afraid of letting go, and they're two very different ones.
mm, mm. Okay, so as we start to wind down, I wanted to, I wanted you to, tell us what's going on with the website, what's going on. You said like it's going to be like a relaunch for Be Here
Yeah.
Now. So please let us know what is going on
Yeah.
and what updates are.
Okay, so again, for anything Spartacus related, that's not my bag, unfortunately, Spartacus fans. I can see lots of questions and tribute questions and that kind of stuff going on. So at this particular moment, I can't answer questions about Spartacus, but you can through any of the Spartacus websites or fan sites. That's probably a better way for you to explore that. In terms of the documentary, back at the end of February, our relationship with Netflix came to a close because we're moving to a new platform.
Okay.
And so that is still to be announced. With COVID, it's got a little bit delayed, but we've got a new platform coming to be able to get the documentary and watch the documentary. Now, in the interim, we are relaunching the new Be Here Now site because you're still seeing an old site that was driven by having screenings and the launch of the film. So you're still seeing a very old site. Over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we will be launching the new Be Here Now site, which is going to have a beautiful film-esque quality. It will have so much more information. It will have links to Spartacus information. It will have all sorts of other resources around the film. I'll be doing a whole bunch of work on life, leadership, and legacy. So you can have resources there for people that have watched the documentary who want to either explore learning more, creating bigger legacy, how they can be of service, of purpose in their own life, and also some support structures for people going through things. So if you're not already on the email list for the Be Here Now site, make sure that you are, because there's going to be lots of juicy announcements on that once it launches. And it's also the place where we'll be launching all info about where the film you'll be able to watch and up and coming events related to the film.
Nice. So the last question that I will ask you is, how has the world events, how's that affected things in Australia? I mean, because I can watch the news, I can get on the internet and see, but from somebody that's living out there, how has the world events affected Australia, immediately?
Well, I love you've answered the most profound question to the last minute. Well, okay, so let's start with COVID. We've got away lightly, like we had lockdown and we had isolation, but given our land mass and our ocean and our open spaces, even with lockdown, for many, you've still got this opportunity to be out there in beautiful environments. So lucky. And also we've had very, very few cases. So in it, we're kind of revving back up to, my children are back at school, cafes, the gyms have just all opened. And I say gyms not because it's really important, but because that gives you a sense of, what people are allowed to do. I really feel like who knows what will happen, but it definitely feels like we sidestepped it. Literally, it was a good place to be if there is a good place to be.
Yeah.
So that's COVID. Of course, if you lost somebody to it, you're not going to be feeling like that. But as you may or may not know, I have a very different relationship with my belief system around death and dying. So we'll leave that there. The conversation around what's going on in the world, Black Lives Matter, Floyd, just the sheer magnitude of what needs to happen, not needs to happen as in life should not be lost. This is a conversation that should be pertinent all the time. Now, what's very interesting about Australia is you'll hear this very flippant comment that was, and I'm a white middle-class woman, so who am I to comment? But I grew up in a complete multicultural and my first 5 relationships were with beautiful black men, so for me, it's been a very strange thing to watch and feel so insignificant in having any influence over. However, what it's been pertinent in Australia, as you may or may not know, that is like very different from somewhere like New Zealand, where they embrace their history and their culture of the Maoris and the Maori tribes. In Australia, it's embarrassing. We've heard people saying, "Oh, aren't we lucky in Australia that we don't have this?" But we have a huge issue in Australia with racism. We have a huge issue with not acknowledging the Indigenous people, and our history is horrific. So it's been really interesting, the dialogue about what we should be talking and acknowledging, but this has been going on forever. As it's pertinent around the world, it's something that just constantly gets swept aside, pushed under the carpet. So I'm hoping what it means is that it will create this consistent yeah, not just conversation, but for people going, don't just Instagram because everyone else is Instagram. Go and petition at the schools to teach Indigenous history so that our white children know how lucky they are to be on the lands they're standing on. So I'm hoping it will actually create people to make a difference rather than doing something because they feel they should be seen to be speaking, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I'm familiar with some of the history in Australia, but I was not aware. I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised, but it's just different from actually thinking and hearing from somebody that lives there. Racism is unfortunately a worldwide thing. It doesn't matter across the seas. It doesn't matter. But I was not aware of the lack of teaching in Australia. But yeah, there's a rich history. There is a rich history of Indigenous people in Australia, connecting from Australia to Egypt to all. There's so many things to explore with that. I had no idea, and that's why I asked.
No, great question. Great question.
So I want to say thank you for taking
My
the time
pleasure.
to speak to us. For all of us, this is actually what I wanted to say from the beginning. Miss Vashti Whitfield was actually it means Persian, a Persian baby. It means beautiful, the best. She is a resilience coach, a speaker, a disruptor. I like that, disruptor, a human potential enabler, author, mother, and what I call you, unapologetically optimistic. I love your energy, and I want to thank you so much for this interview.
My pleasure.
Yes, I love Be Here Now. I love your husband like I knew him. I appreciate all the work they've done, and I appreciate you for continuing his work and continue to inspire people in this working. It really is.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you, and keep being you and always growing and always learning, and nothing but love from Australia. I love it. I know it's beautiful. Actually, a little shout out, and I'd love for you to maybe just do a little post on this. Oh, anybody, if you could send anybody, could you send a good high res picture just on your iPhone? We need any tattoos. So any new Be Here Now tattoos. We're going to do a whole wall of those on the new site. So can you send a high res picture of yours, and anybody else that's listening that has any kind of honorary, either a Be Here Now tattoo or an Andy tattoo, send it to the Be Here Now website. That would be terrific.
We definitely will. I'll definitely make a post about that.
Okay. Lots of love. Bye for now.
Yes. See you later.
Bye.